Welcome, Real World PDR family. This one was fun to do. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed making it. Hey, what's going on? This is Jim with Real World PDR. So at MTE, we picked up this spiky VIP tip. Now, the idea behind it is that's gonna gather the metal on stretch dents, so kind of like a cold shrinking technique. So we're gonna put this tip against a Dolly technique that I use with a Stanliner tool. We're gonna see which one's better. I saw somebody else do this online and I thought it would be a fun little experiment here at the shop. Let's take a look.
Man.
So hopefully you get the idea that I really put the mustard into these dents. There's no soft R4 tips here. This is a straight hard knockdown onto the steel panel. These dents are extremely sharp. This is a BB style dent. It kind of looks like it got shot with a BB gun. There are of course lots of different ways to repair this kind of damage, and I teach them at realworldpdr.com. So here you can get an idea of how deep this is. So I separated this. Each tool, each technique is going to have 2 chances. Hopefully that makes this a little more fair and removes the element of operator error. So we're going to start out with the VIP tip here. If you've watched this channel a long time, you've seen me take a PDR Finesse MT rod and repair damage like this. This is basically that, but as you see, it's got all of those teeth, so it's supposed to speed things up a little bit. And you know what? It really does. Speaking of sped up, this video is sped up to 400%. This isn't the kind of thing that you can just jam in there and push all crazy and expect great results. It does take its fair amount of patience. Now, regardless of the results on this head-to-head, let it be known that this VIP tip is actually fun to use. I did push several other dents that were not this sharp with this VIP tip, and I had a blast. It's just something different. What I did notice using this tip is with something this sharp, it is difficult not to create texture. So a normal hail style dent, it's easier to control, but whenever you get this sharp and you're trying to move metal cleanly with this tip, it's a little bit difficult. Another rule that I should mention is that I decided to only use the tips, the tools that are going head to head. So we're not doing any cleanup work. We're not doing the final cleanup work on any of these dents. We're just getting it as flat as we can using only either the VIP tip or this Stanliner tool being used as a dolly. So in different situations, this tip does gather metal very quickly. And again, like I said, it is actually a blast to use. So I'm not ever going to tell anybody not to get this tip, and I don't want you to take this as the end-all review on this tip. This is just for this particular style of BB dent, the kind of dents that nobody wants to repair, but when they come into your shop, well, you kind of have to know how to do them. So taking a look here, this is about what we came up with. You can see there's still a little bit of low in there. I'd like to get an MT rod in there, quite a bit of texture that's gonna need a wet sand. So moving on to this Stanliner tool, being used as a dolly with a Craftsman hammer. Let's take a look at what we come up with this. Now again, this video is going to be sped up 400%. This is a wonderful technique that I do teach on realworldpdr.com. I've been using this technique for quite some time. Once you get comfortable with this technique, you'll learn that there is not a whole lot of aggression that goes into it, but there's not a whole lot of accuracy either. This technique is derived from more old school body work. So the way that I found this, the way that I discovered that this was even a thing, because I don't really have any dollies laying around in my shop, is I started to look at these Stanliner tools, started to look at the killer whale tails, this tool, and I realized, dang, that's kind of just like a dolly on a stick, right? And yeah, in reality, that's pretty much what you're working with. So here we are, we're getting to, the ending stages of this dent, about as much as I'm gonna be able to get using this hammer and dolly technique. Now, if you look to the left of your screen and you see the texture that was created by the VIP tip, and then you look at my work area now, you can see that the texture is miles apart. There's very little texture being created with this rounded dolly type Stanliner tool. And also, to clean this up, I can use some of those Stanliner techniques. Here you're gonna see me dragging through that dent a little bit just to get it a little bit more clean. So now I'm going to slow this down to 200% speed just so you can really appreciate the difference between that repair that's on the left side of your screen and where I'm working right now. So whenever I take that close light off, it really illustrates that, man, there is a lot of texture in that VIP repair that we did, whereas using this dolly technique, not so much. That's going to be easily cleaned up with an MT rod, and it's not going to require a wet sand. But in all fairness, let's go ahead and give this VIP tip its second chance. Again, still at 400% speed. And this time what I decided to do was work a bit faster, because you might not have noticed because the video sped up, but that dolly technique worked significantly faster than working with this VIP tip. So on these next two dents, I decided to work very quickly to kind of illustrate what the speed difference here is. So instead of being so careful with that VIP tip, I'm really getting in there and I'm really trying to move some metal a lot quicker than I did with the very first dent. As you'll see here momentarily, the results show it. So there wasn't quite as much really tight texture as there was on the very first one, but this isn't a super accurate tool either. So as I created this kind of river running through this thing, it was very difficult for me to pick it up with this VIP tip. And still, there's still plenty of texture, more than we had with that first go around with the dolly technique, but that's okay. There's still one more dolly coming up. Let's see how that one turns out. As far as speed goes, I will say this, 100%, if I had to choose between a single MT tip to use this shrinking method and this tip, I think I would probably go ahead and deal with the fact that I might have to wet sand and use this VIP tip, because it does gather metal quite a bit quicker than using those single pokes that you would with a PDR Finesse MT rod. So second dent with this dolly technique, again, sped up 400%. Let's see what we come up with. So there you can see I'm using my Craftsman hammer. Again, if you want to learn this technique, realworldpdr.com is the place to be. Now, this is the one where I tried to work fast, where you can really see this dolly technique work. That small circle that you see in the pit of that dent is actually the tip of the knockdown that I used to create the dent. So that's how cleanly this dolly technique has brought this up. It hasn't even really distorted any of that. And guess what? I am pretty well done with the second dolly technique BB style dent. That's how quickly and cleanly that works. So of course, an MT rod in there, I could pick up that little circle and all would be good, no wet sand required. Now putting these two, the second VIP is going to be on the right side of your screen, and this second dolly technique is right where I'm working here. You can see there is a giant difference in quality of that repair. So I love VIP products in general. Some of their knockdown tips are the best in the market. I'm just trying to illustrate on one particular type of dent what the difference is between a little bit of old school knowledge and the newest, coolest tool on the market. So having that knowledge, obviously in this situation, is working out better than going out and purchasing the new fad. The dolly technique has been much, much cleaner. It's been way faster, and I don't think it would require a wet sand to make perfect if I got in there and just picked up that little circle spot. Whereas the VIP, pretty much no matter what at this point, it is going to require using some toll cut to get rid of some of that texture. So we just looked at two entirely different ways of fixing those tiny little sharp BB dents. Now, for me, I'm going to say that the dolly with the Stanliner tool works way better. Now, having said that, I also have a lot of experience with this, so I'm going to keep playing around with these VIP tips and see what we come up with. But for now, log on to realworldpdr.com and I will teach you how to do that dolly technique. It's wonderful for those BB style dents that nobody wants to do. So some little after bits with the cell phone here. I think what we have done is effectively proven that a little bit of training goes a long way, whereas the new fanciest tool on the market might sometimes let you down. I am in no way dogging on these VIP tips. This was a very specific test with a very specific type of dent, and they do work great in other situations, more typical hail damage type things. But for this type of dent, your dolly method is going to work better. Again, I do teach that at realworldpdr.com. You're going to want to learn that one. And speaking of training, make sure that you've signed up for the Real World PDR workshop. You can register at realworldpdr.com. And if you haven't yet, make sure you pick up your declaration set. This is a leverage tool from Revolution PDR Tools. That is my PDR tool company. We've got this out. We've also got some sweet tips, some hammer, all kinds of things coming. Stay tuned right here and you will be the first to know about it. The declaration set is a leverage tool unlike anything else on the market. It is a real money maker. Make sure you pick yours up while supplies last. Thank you guys very much for your support. Now and in the future, make sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel to be kept up to date with all the coolest new PDR stuff. Peace.